Hi, you're listening to Speaker Talks, professional speakers, authors, and coaches podcast that can help you succeed. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's helping each other to find success in today's world. I have the great pleasure today of working with Steve Feld. Steve is a business coach, an author, a speaker, and an award-winning business management executive. Steve, how you doing?
Great. And yourself?
Really good, really good. Tell me about the award-winning executive. I think that's cool.
Yes, I used to own a retail store, and I started to apply for certain grants and everything because I was doing process improvement, change management. That was my whole background. So when I bought this retail store, I thought, why not apply all those techniques into my own store? And it got noticed by the Organizational for Entrepreneurial Development that I changed how I bought things. I reduced my cost of goods from 33%. I went it down to 8%, still with the same high
Holy
quality.
cow, that's
Just
huge.
changing buying habits. I teamed up with other related businesses. So we bought in bulk, reduced all of our costs. Next thing I know, we had a great relationship. I expanded my relationship, expanded the business, and made more money.
Oh, I like that. Made more money. Isn't that why we're here? Make
That's
more
it.
money. Well, we're supposed to be here to help other people too. So I guess
We
that
did
works
that.
out for both. Yeah. And what are you doing now? Tell us about what you do right now.
Yes, I've been on and off doing coaching consulting for decades. Then finally one day someone goes, you're really good at coaching. You're always moving businesses forward. You're passionate about small businesses. Why don't you just do it full time and stop helping, going into other people's businesses, turning them around, and then going off to the next business? Stick with it and help more business owners. So I said, you're right. So I started just doing business coaching for business owners. And now I focus just primarily on small, medium-sized businesses because I think they need the most help. They're struggling, especially nowadays during the pandemic. They just don't know what they don't know. And that's
Oh,
where I'm passionate about seeing them survive and thrive. And
isn't
that's
that,
where my heart
I love
lies.
that phrase. They don't know what they don't know. That's true for all of us. We don't know what we don't know. With this pandemic and the masks and the COVID virus and what else is going on? Something else.
Yeah, everything.
Everything, it's like, what don't we know? And why don't we know it? And how do we find out what we don't know? And the answer is,
Mhm.
if we could find that out in business, especially, boy, it changes everything, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what I see, the business owners that are growing and surviving and thriving, they always have assistants. They always have mentors, guidance, coaches, someone as a sounding board to see what they don't see. And I always relate this
Yeah,
to like Michael Jordan.
yeah, that's it. Good. Go ahead.
Michael Jordan had 12 coaches at one time. Here he is, probably the greatest basketball player ever. And he has 12 coaches. And you're thinking, well, why does he need 12 coaches? He's the greatest player. Because he knew he cannot see his faults. He knew that. And he was openly about it. He goes, I have a dribbling coach because they see things I think I'm doing right and they see it clearly. And they help me get better all the time. My fitness coach, the head coach, everyone, he saw the power of coaches and mentorship.
And that's really important that most people, I can do this. I just talked to a potential client a few minutes ago, and they said, well, I want to try and get better on my own before I hire you. I went, really? And that's back to what you say. It's like, hey, wait a minute. I want to be a doctor, so I'm going to go operate on people, and
Mhm.
then I'll go get my medical degree. It's like people have it so weirdly impressed in their mind that they
Right.
should be able to do it on their own, when you and I know you really can't. I mean, there's some people who've made it on their own. They have.
Oh, yeah.
But the majority of people really need someone who can help them see the flaws, find the openings, create somebody I was talking to the other day, they had an advertising coach, they had a leads coach. They had like 4 coaches, and I went, you must be doing well financially, because I don't know about
Right.
anybody else, but when you're
Yeah,
paying ballpark $1,000 for each one, you're paying $4,000 a month for people to get you more business. And they said, well, we only do about 20,000 a month. Well, hey, that's a pretty good month for an entrepreneur, for somebody
hmm
who's out here on the internet doing it on their own. 20,000 income doesn't mean they're making 20,000.
Right.
But they recognized that they needed all these people to help them succeed. And so that's what you do, isn't it? That's what you do. Now,
Yeah.
do you have a website, or do you have some way people can get in touch with you?
Yes, my website is bizcoachsteve.com. It's B-I-Z, coachsteve.com. And I always take, random emails, questions too. People reach out just for a quick question. More than happy to help. And that's just Steve at bizcoachsteve.com.
I think
Whatever
that's,
I can do to help.
yeah, I think that's, you reach out to people and you ask them, if you were to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I don't know how we connected, but on LinkedIn, if I'm talking to you, my question back is always, what can I do to help you have more success over the next 18 months? Right? That's my question. What can I, and I guess, if they want me to connect them with somebody, if they're having a challenge with something in their business, hey, I need more advertising money, or I need to find out how to get more clients. I may not be able to do that for them, but maybe I can point them in the direction of the person who could. But I always, I just interviewed on this podcast, I want to say Wayne Dyer, but it wasn't. Who was anyway, Crystal and Mark Victor Hansen. So I just interviewed them, and they got a new book out called Ask, and it's something else. But I've had papers out, and I've had small things out. But it's always about ask. I learned that 40 years ago when I was in Amway, I'll say. And somebody was on stage, one of the big guys, whether it was Zig Ziglar or somebody, but they said you have to ask for what you want. If you don't ask, it's an automatic no. Of course, we learned that in sales. But it was interesting to me that people are now starting to try and push this. Well, why? Because most of us don't know how to ask. They should call you up. They should just get a hold of you,
Yeah.
Steve at bizcoachsteve.com, and say, Steve, I have a question about, and then whatever you're struggling in your business about, you call up Steve and he'll try and help you, right? I mean, I do the same thing with mine. What questions do you have? Drop me a note, drop me an email. I tell people all the time, I give you 20 minutes of free information, free advice. After that, I'm going to say, hey, that's all you can get for free because I make a living at this. So that's it, isn't it? You can help them, and that's important. So when we talk about who you can help, tell us who your target is, your target audience is.
Most of my clients have been anywhere, well, they're mostly small business owners. So anywhere from about 100,000, and I'll say even my small business client that I just recently had, they were at 87 million.
Oh.
But it was a homegrown business, high technology manufacturing, did everything via e-commerce. So when I went into him, he had a leadership problem. So we just talked about it. And then next thing you know, we found out outsourcing certain things. He went from 84 employees, unfortunately, down to 18, but his profits increased, his revenue increased, everything increased. It turned his whole world around from him hating to go into his own business every day to him loving going into his business.
That's really crucial too, that we find out sometimes we get we get too big. We get too big for our own britches, as people used to say. But getting too big means you have excess weight that you're trying to figure out, okay, so I got somebody doing that, but then somebody else might be twiddling their thumbs and something else is going on here.
Right.
And so much happens. We all think that we have to get bigger when sometimes we have to get smaller. 84 employees is really a big business. 18 employees is a very manageable business. And that's important that you learn those kind. I mean, I've done restaurant work and retail work and owned other businesses. And like you say, you go into some of these to help these people turn them around, and you go, why do you have this? And they're like, well, you just need that much. Oh, yeah, no. Looking at it from the outside, you go, no, you don't. Sometimes it's just cutting off the fat over here. It's not always employees. Sometimes it's other stuff. One of the biggest challenges I remember this one little restaurant chain had, and they had 7 restaurants. And when I went in and sat down just to eat, I said, I want to go and sit down and eat, watch how they do business. I'll probably spend a couple hours there, Larry, if that's all right. He said, sure, do whatever you need. I went, great. And as I'm sitting there, I watched, them make stuff. And one of them was just a ice cream sundae. And I'd owned an ice cream store. So I was, I'm like watching, and they're dipping this and they're doing that. And I went, interesting. And then I watched them make one for me. So I ordered one. And I went, can I ask you something? And the server went, yeah. I went, you only gave me 2 ladles of like strawberry topping. And they went, well, yeah, that's all you're supposed to have. But see, I just watched them give like 5 to this other customer. And I said, but they got more. And I wasn't afraid to ask because I wanted to find the answer. Well, they're regulars. And when you become a regular, we'll do little things for you. But you find out boy, if you're giving away 5 scoops of strawberry on a, $2.95 thing versus 2 that you're supposed to give. I mean, that's like
Right.
my wife and I, there was a Baskin Robbins in Joplin, Missouri. And I'd grown up at 15 years old. I worked in a Baskin Robbins for a year and a half. And the exact size, and I don't remember the size now, but let's say 3.2 ounces was the ball of ice cream that you were
Yeah.
supposed to put on top of that. And I watched when we went into this because it was brand new a few years ago. And when we stood in line, because everybody wanted to go get Baskin Robbins as the new store, and they were giving away these monstrous scoops, boom, boom, and I'm like, oh, they're going to go out of business. And my wife said, why is that? I went, that's 3 times the size of the scoop they're supposed to be giving. And there was no manager around. It was just young kids doing
Oh,
what they're
wow.
supposed to be doing. And unfortunately, it's really, and I say unfortunate because I want everybody to succeed, but unfortunately, we just went back we just went back and they were gone. They were out of business. So I
Mm,
think it had been like 4 years. But it's so often the little things, right? Now,
it is.
triple size scoops is not a little thing, but it's the little, nobody was watching them. And isn't that what isn't that what they hire you to do?
Yeah, we kind of hold them accountable to even their own goals. Because
Yeah,
listen, we're all humans. I mean, I have a coach too. I'm not going to, why should I coach someone if I don't have a coach?
that's right.
And my coach holds me accountable to my own goals. They're not his goals, they're my goals. So when I lay out my goals, he goes, okay, we have a plan to reach those. I have to achieve them. I have to hold myself accountable to him. Same thing with a business owner. We're here to help you in your goals, not self-serving. We're here to help you. That's our job. That's why I'm passionate. It's like I want to see you succeed. If I can see you succeed and grow and thrive for long-term success, and the one thing they all forget about is the exit strategy,
Oh,
that's our end goal. It's like, let's get it to your goals. It's not about
yeah.
me on those.
So you mentioned exit strategy. We'll come back to exit
Mm-hmm.
strategy because a lot of people, matter of fact, I've watched so many, again, going back, I live in Tampa, Florida now. I grew up in Moline, Illinois, Davenport, Iowa. And we had a restaurant going out of business, and they
Mm,
said, we're going to be going out of business. And it was like, you're not selling it off. Well, they hadn't done any updating in decades. They didn't have the right management in place.
mm,
They hadn't done this. They hadn't done that. And so who would want to buy that place? Exit strategy.
right.
Like I said, we'll try and get back to that. So the purpose of the podcast is for us to help other people, whether you're speakers, whether you're authors, whether you're entrepreneurs, whether you're coaches. What solid piece of advice might you give somebody who says, hey, I'm a speaker or I'm a coach? What advice do you have for people in business?
Yeah, one of the things I hear, because we all hang out with other speakers and coaches as well. And my first thing is, because I'm now my coaching side always comes out. What is your plan to get
Plan,
on stage? What
plan.
is your plan of action? What's your end goal? Who do you want to serve? Why do you want to serve them?
Everybody.
And that's what I hear. And it's like, well, you're trying to be everything to everybody. The only company that is that now is just one company, really, and that's Amazon. But they started with one thing. And if you really look at the history of Amazon, they only add one thing at a time. They don't add 10 things. They focus on one thing, they get it right, they wait till it proves itself, they integrate it, then they move to the next one thing. They didn't come out of the gate trying to be everything to everybody. And that's where I think a lot of speakers, coaches, and business owners, they're trying to be everything to everybody all the time.
Yeah, when like the way you find out is what's your elevator pitch? What's your elevator speech? And who's it directed to? And I hear so many people start off with, hey, I'm Steve Sapato and I own this
Mhm.
business or I run this business or I work for this company. And look at what this company has done. Nobody cares what your company's done.
No,
Nobody gives a rat's, do they?
no. They don't care about your credentials, honestly. Now, if you're a doctor, it's an
No,
assumption, right?
that's
Because you
right.
earn the title, you hope. But
And
if
even
you're
those,
not,
wait, and even those, I mean, even those, you read about these people who fake that and put these fake
right,
documents on the wall. So even those can be fake. So yeah,
right.
go ahead.
And you can always ask if that's something very important to you. It's like, yes, I got all these acronyms behind my name. That's nice. But I very rarely get asked for it. What they want from me, and I think a business owner to their clients, is results. What are you satisfying for your client, your prospect? That's what matters. And are you delivering it in the ethical manner, high quality, and reasonable prices? I say reasonable because right now there's some price gouging going on
Well,
out there.
and what's reasonable?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I started Speaker Talks, which is a platform to get people on a stage so they can get a professionally recorded video so that they can get that made into their sizzle reel and get a job speaking for $5, $10, $20,000. Okay.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize until about 2 years ago, I started to really delve into this. Who can I talk to? Who can I market to? What should I sell? Who should be on stage with me to help my people grow? Because if I got 15 speakers on there, I want them to leave with knowledge, a
Right.
wealth of knowledge that makes them wealthy. And as I talked to people, I went, what? What? You said a reasonable price. And I'm like, to me, I'm from the Midwest. I don't know where you're from originally, Steve, but
Mm,
Midwest. And it's like, hey, this is what everything costs. And then I run
right.
into people. I remember the first time I heard somebody say, so you're a ghostwriter. They go, yeah. Well, I sit with somebody for 10, 12, 15 hours and learn about, them so I can help them write their book. I went, oh, cool. How much does that cost? $25,000. What? 25.
Yeah.
I slid off my chair here in the office. And then I found dirt cheap as a ghostwriter is
Yeah.
$15,000. And you're
Right.
like, who pays $15,000? And there's lots of people. A lot of people who really don't have the money figure out how to get the money because they
Right.
want to be that author. That's like me as a speaking coach. I tell everybody, hey, for 6 months, you can have me for $6,500. And they go, well, that's cheap, Steve, compared to I just talked to so and so who wanted $24,000. I went, it's all relative.
Right.
I don't need $24,000 from 20 people, right, this year. I need $6,500 from 10 people this year to go with the other incomes I have going. And I'm happy, and I'm
Mhm.
happier because I'm helping you.
Right.
And that's vital for you to understand who's your niche market. And that's what Steve was just saying. And I'm going to throw in a couple things here. For first of all, um, most of us don't really understand that we don't have a real focus and we aren't open to new ideas. And I'll give you a story on that. I was teaching college 25 years ago, whatever it was. And I remember coming out of the college and there was an ad on the radio that said, why ever go to a bookstore again when you can now go to Amazon.com, just what you were talking about.
Mm.
And they said, go to Amazon.com and buy any book you want. And I went, how stupid is that? Why would I go online when I, could go right up here to the bookstore? Had I been open and
Mhm.
thinking, and I mean open, listen to everything happening around you. If you were open, just imagine if I'd bought $100 worth of Amazon stock the first 6 months they were open, right?
Yeah.
Somebody said if they'd have bought $1,000 worth of Amazon stock the first year they were in business, I just read this, they'd be worth like $300,000 now. And you're like,
Yeah.
see, we don't have open minds. We really don't, and myself included.
Mhm.
And in that, I will give you, so when Steve mentioned you have to find your market, right? I want you to call Steve up and ask him, Steve, what's my market? And then get into this discussion because I'll give you an example. I was looking at something on Facebook the other day, 8 months ago. And somebody was saying, buy a quilt, right? So it was a generic ad, buy a
Mhm.
quilt, and this is how much the quilts are. And so it must have been wintertime, but you were like, quilt? Why am I seeing a quilt ad? Because they had put whatever their
Mhm.
marketing had done, said, throw out a quilt ad and everybody who needs a quilt will buy one. But here's what I noticed. On the ad, the quilt they were showing was like the wall of a library. So it was full of books. I'm
Mm.
looking at this quilt just packed with books on the library shelves. And I went, wait a minute, knowing what Steve and I know today, I said, wait a minute, who should they be marketing that to? And to me, who would buy a quilt with library books on it more than librarians?
Mhm.
And I went, I wonder what the market is for librarians. And I Googled it and it blew my mind. 181,000 people are registered as librarians in the United
Wow.
States. Yeah, 181,000 librarians. So imagine if you're a quilt company and you only captured 10% of that market. I don't know how many quilts they were hoping to sell. I don't know what their whole thing was. But if you just went after that one niche and captured 10%, you'd have sold 18,000 quilts. See, if they'd have known their market and gone after it, and I don't know how many they sold. Maybe they did better than that in the whole thing. But I'm just saying, you need to know your niche. And that's what Steve was just telling you, right, Steve?
That's it. I was even thinking for that quilt, it's like working from home and need a better background.
Oh, see? I love that. See, that didn't even hit my head. That's right. Could be on this wall right
On
here.
the
Now
wall,
suddenly
right?
you're
Yeah.
looking at a library wall rather than my pictures of my
Yeah.
family back here. Right.
Because I know
speaking
everyone's
of,
using those virtual backgrounds.
oh, and my ears disappear. When I do that, my
Yeah.
ears disappear and part of my shoulder. And I'm like, yeah.
Happy to their face.
And I always say, these are some of the businesses I've owned. My son, a few years ago, put the business cards of businesses that I've owned together in a nice little collage for me. So
Nice.
a couple of them are nightclubs, a couple of them are, I don't even know what they are, because I've had so many businesses that I've, worked. And you say, yeah. How many of them really worked? And the answer is probably about 4 of them. Right? The rest were just hobbies. Isn't that, and that's the difference too. A hobby is something that you try to make money on while you're sitting here at home, right? Or working your full-time job. Then you get a business which replaces your job. It's still a job because if you've got to work the hours and do that, it's still a job. And then you can move into the empire, which is learning all about how to create passive income, how to create income when you're not there, which is what Steve teaches you as a coach, right, Steve?
That's it. It's we use the 3 I's of entrepreneurship from Michael Gerber. So when you move in, you think you're the entrepreneur, but actually you're still the technician because you have to do everything. And then you move into the manager because now you have some employees, you have some systems in place. Then you finally move into the entrepreneur. Now your vision opens up. Now you start bringing in that passive residual income in. You have a business model, you have a plan, a structure. Now you get to focus on working on your business, not working in your business. And that's what a lot of entrepreneurs want.
And that's really, think of it, when we talk this as a speakers, authors, entrepreneurs, coaches podcast type thing, I want you to think about, what do you really want for your business? Whether you're a speaker, do you want to, some people want to speak. Some people, I've got friends who just love speaking. They love going, well, let's see, what did David have the other day when I talked to him? Anyway, he spoke like 100 times last year, 100 times. Now, how many weeks are there in the year? 52. It means he spoke twice a week, all year long, traveling, flying. He's an international speaker. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to do that, right? I thought when I did, when I was in my peak, probably about 15, 20 years ago, I traveled the United States, and I thought, doing 50 gigs a year was a lot because that wears you out. You're in hotel after hotel after hotel. So you have to decide as a speaker what you want your business to look like, because you can drop into teaching other speakers. You can drop into speaking from the stage to sell a product or a service. So you have to decide. The same with authors. Authors don't understand, hey, I'm going to write a book. And no author gets rich anymore off of their book. They get rich off of speaking and selling and marketing their books. And when we talk about coaches have to find a system that works for their clients so that they can keep them ongoing. You don't have to call me every day because here's my other options. Here's a new course that you can buy into or that I offer if you stay with me. And these courses help them grow and succeed. And that's really vital. And Steve, how do they get in touch with you again?
At Steve at bizcoachsteve.com, B-I-Z, Coach Steve, or my website, bizcoachsteve.com.
And if we go to your website, Steve, what will we find?
Big old picture of me, which I hated my developer to put on there. I'm like, it's not about
can they
me.
find courses? Can they find courses? Can they find, what you offer and all that good? They have books? Do you have books on your site?
Yes, I have wrote 3 books. We're in the 4th one right now. And I also co-own a publishing company. So we actually write expert books. I call it expert books. So for people who want to take their game to the next level, it's a short quick little book, 50 to about 80 pages. It could be read in 15 to 20 minutes. So that kind of sets people apart from others. We wrote it for one for an insurance agent, and he ended up getting a huge contract because that little book showed the owner who read it really fast that why him and how he's going to be helping the customer. And the guy said, this little teeny tiny book did it. It set you totally apart.
You know, most people don't understand that. I tried to teach realtors that for a while, and most of them don't
Oh,
want to
yeah.
hear it, you know. But it's like, imagine if I'm walking into an open house and here's a stack, 5, 6 books with your picture on why you're the expert in real
Hmm.
estate, and people pick it up. They're more likely going to call you, do business with you, than somebody they walk into an open
Absolutely.
house where the person jumps up going, "Hey, good to see you. Hey, how are you?" You know, you're the expert,
Absolutely.
you're the professional, and you should get a hold of Steve. He will help you write an expert book. And
Yeah.
Steve, we're coming up on the half hour, which I told him I would keep him for. So what other pieces of advice do you have for us?
One of the biggest things I see with small business owners nowadays, I mean, since the pandemic hit, is a lot of them retreated and well, they're not going to survive through this, but others have pivoted, but a lot of them have pivoted in a positive way, and some have just pivoted out of reaction and necessity. For long-term success, they really need to sit down and have a strategic plan for their business moving forward. The new normal, if you will, you got to adjust your business. It's not going to go back immediately, maybe not for years, to the normal that everyone's been used to. And I think that's where a lot of business owners are just trying to do it on themselves, and they're struggling and causing more anxiety and stress. And there's plenty of help out here. We
And
can
you
all
can
help.
help them with that.
Absolutely.
So again, get a hold of Steve, find out what you can learn from him. He offers initial free advice so that he can
Absolutely.
see if he can work with you, if you can work with him. Because what I will tell you about us speaking professionals, about us coaches, is that we're looking for somebody who we can work with. We meet lots of people who I go, oh, I'm not working with that person. You know, they'll make us both crazy. And that's important. If you're not willing to listen to advice, we probably don't want to work with you. If you're not willing to get great advice, you might not want to work with us. You just want to have people say yes to you all the time. We're not the people you call. So get a hold of Steve. It's Steve at bizcoachsteve.com. And of course, his website is bizcoachsteve.com. Steve, I really appreciate you being on this with me today, and a wealth of advice and information. And are these your books up behind you? I see one of them is.
Yes. So 3 books, and then also I was written up in a magazine called Business Breakthroughs, and they did a feature article. And I'm continually looking for case studies for my next version of my 45-minute. So I can show
Oh,
someone, I
yeah.
can find them at least $10,000 in 45 minutes. And
That's
we
cool.
do it all online, just like we're
You
doing
know,
right
and
here.
that's it. If you want to learn if you can change your business in less than an hour, call Steve. He will
Absolutely.
help you with a nice survey, a nice group of questions that he will
Yeah.
ask you, so that you can see that he knows his stuff, and that's
Yeah.
really important. By the way, tell Adrian I said hi. You know, from that group.
Sure.
And and if there's anything you need, make sure you call myself, Steve at stevesapato.com, or Steve Feld, and that's Steve at bizcoachsteve.com. And we are hoping that you've learned a little bit from us today, and we hope you're willing to learn a lot more from us in growing your business to success. I hope you have a blessed month. I hope the rest of 2020 is good for you, and that we will help you make 2021 great, right, Steve?
Absolutely.
Great. All right. God bless. This has been Steve Sapato
Great.
with the Speaker Talks, Speakers, Authors, Entrepreneurs, and Coaches podcast. God bless.